The first sound of that morning was silence. Not the quiet kind that brings peace, but the hollow kind that seeps through walls, reminding you no one remembered. My apartment smelled faintly of burnt coffee grounds and cardboard boxes from last night's unpacking. I'd promised myself this year would be different. New job title, new apartment, new habits. 28 deserved at least the dignity of a beginning. I turned my phone face down. Notifications had been lighting up since dawn, but none from the people who mattered most, or at least, the people I used to think mattered. My thumb hovered, then caved. I unlocked the screen. The first image hit harder than I thought a digital photo ever could. 47 pictures, neatly arranged in an album titled Surprise Party for Our Star. I blinked at the timestamp. Yesterday. My birthday. The photos unfolded like tiny betrayals. My mother's dining room had never looked so alive. Golden balloons arched above crystal glasses, faces I hadn't seen in years gathered shoulder to shoulder. Aunts, uncles, cousins, even the neighbor who once asked my mom if I'd ever amount to something, was there. And at the center, beneath glitter and laughter, stood my sister Emily. A designer gown hugged her frame, sequins capturing every flash. 12 years of, she was radiant in the way only someone used to being adored can be. Her hands cupped a 3, tier cake trimmed in fondant roses and gold foil. Above it, written in looping letters, to the daughter worth celebrating. I almost laughed, but my chest ached instead. Scrolling, I saw comments flooding in. She deserves every bit of this. So proud of your real daughter. Finally honoring the right Mitchell girl. I should have stopped. I should have closed the app and swallowed it, like every other slight before. But my fingers betrayed me. Nice cake, I typed, pressing send with steady hands. Seconds later, my mother's reply lit the screen for everyone to see. At least someone in this family deserves our effort. 17 likes. I sat perfectly still, phone burning in my palm while my coffee cooled untouched. 2. The room around me blurred. Suddenly I was 10 again, sitting backstage at my first piano recital. My dress too stiff, my shoes pinching. I'd waited for her face in the audience. My mother's face, but she never came. Emily had a soccer match that afternoon. A more important commitment. Or 17. Standing at the podium as valedictorian. The auditorium lights hot against my skin. My voice shaking with pride and terror. An empty seat in the front row mocked me. She'd left early. Emily had gotten a C on a quiz, and apparently, that was an emergency. The story of my life had always been told in omissions. But today, this particular omission cut sharper than all the rest, because it wasn't just absence. It was replacement, a birthday stolen, rewritten as someone else's chapter. 2. My phone buzzed again, a new comment. Emily herself. Sarah, don't be bitter. Not everything is about you. 43 likes. I set the phone down gently. Like it might shatter if I held it longer. My reflection in the black screen stared back at me, hair hastily tied, circles under my eyes. The faint crease of exhaustion from another night spent fixing problems at work no one else even noticed. Nothing had ever been about me. Not my scholarship offers. Not my MBA. Not the late nights negotiating contracts that kept hospitals running during shortages. My mother had told me once, almost proudly, Sarah handles the practical things. Emily will change the world. Practical. The word had followed me like a second skin. Not brilliant. Not gifted. Not worth honoring. Practical. I reached for the folder on my desk, the one I hadn't touched in 3 years. Dust clung to its edges. Inside lay an envelope, thick and sealed, the handwriting on the front still firm despite the years for Sarah. 12 years of. Only when it's time. My grandfather's last gift. He'd slipped it into my hands 6 days before cancer stole him. His voice had been a rasp, but his eyes, sharp as ever. Patience, Sarah. There's strength in waiting. You'll know when. For years, I'd convinced myself I wasn't ready. That maybe I'd never be. But now, 12 years of staring at that Facebook album, at the faces cheering my sister on my birthday, I felt the seal's weight differently. This wasn't about revenge. It was about recognition. And maybe, just maybe, the time had finally arrived. The city outside was waking up. Horns blared, morning trains screeched, neighbors rattled keys and locks. The world moved as if my life hadn't split into before and after in the space of a Facebook notification. I rose, crossed to the window. From here, I could almost see the edge of the harbor, where Emily's penthouse glittered like a jewel she hadn't earned, a gift she couldn't afford. Signed under my name, dragging my credit through the mud. I pressed my forehead against the glass, eyes burning. For years I had swallowed it all. The favoritism, the sacrifices, the erasure, because family demanded silence. But silence is not the same as weakness. Sometimes silence is the preparation before a storm, and mine was coming. Behind me, my phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. Miss Mitchell, this is James Crawford, your grandfather's attorney. I believe it's time we speak. This was how my 28th year began. Not with a cake, not with candles, but with betrayal, an envelope, and the promise of a reckoning. The call came just after 9. I'd been pacing my apartment, the unopened envelope still sitting like a loaded gun on my desk. I hadn't planned to answer, but the number kept flashing back to life, persistent. Miss Mitchell. The voice on the other end was steady, worn with years of courtroom battles. This is James Crawford. I was your grandfather's personal attorney. The name alone straightened my spine. Crawford had been whispered about at family dinners. The man Grandpa trusted more than his own children. My mother hated him, which meant I trusted him instantly. Why are you calling me? My voice was calmer than I felt, because Robert prepared for this day. He knew it would come, and he made sure you wouldn't face it alone. The words sank into me like stones. All the air in the room seemed to shift. I think, Crawford continued, you've waited long enough. I didn't tell him about the Facebook album, or the caption about the only daughter worth celebrating. He didn't need the context. Somehow, I suspected he already knew. Instead, I asked, what exactly did my grandfather prepare? There was the faint sound of shuffling papers on his end, deliberate, methodical. Let's just say your sister's rise to power was built on shaky ground. Robert anticipated their desperation. He documented everything. Everything. My pulse quickened. Every forged signature. Every unauthorized transfer. Every conversation where your mother pressured him. He left me copies. And he left you something else, didn't he? My gaze drifted toward the sealed envelope on my desk. I didn't answer. You'll know when to open it, Crawford said softly, like he'd been there in the room with us 3 years ago. But I think you already feel it, don't you? That shift. My throat tightened. For years, silence had been survival. But now, silence was beginning to feel like complicity. When the call ended, I sat at my kitchen table with the envelope in front of me. My fingers hovered over the flap. I could tear it open now. End the waiting, drown in whatever truth was inside. But another voice spoke in my head, my grandfather's rasp. Patience. You'll know when. So I left it sealed. For now. Instead, I picked up my phone again. Emily's social media glittered across the screen. A photo of her in the penthouse balcony. City skyline glowing behind her. Caption. Big things coming. Legacy in motion. Felt built for this. built for this." The comments were a parade of admiration.
"So proud of you. Breaking barriers."
"Your grandfather would be proud." My jaw clenched. They didn't know. She hadn't written a single business plan in her life. 12 years of. Didn't know she couldn't read a balance sheet without help. Didn't know the legacy she flaunted had been stolen with my mother's guiding hand. I closed the app, pulse still hammering. This wasn't just about birthdays anymore. This was about truth, buried under years of polish and lies. 2. The next day, I went to see my mother. Her house looked the same as always. White shutters, manicured lawn, wind chimes that never stopped their hollow singing. She opened the door with a look that was almost annoyance. "Sarah, what are you doing here unannounced?" The word daughter never quite fit her lips when it came to me. Inside, the house smelled like lemon polish and expensive candles. Family photos lined the walls, photos where my face appeared as if by accident, usually at the edge, half turned, while Emily gleamed in the center. "Why didn't you call yesterday?" I asked. She blinked, genuinely confused. "Call? My birthday." Her silence was confirmation enough. Then she sighed, as though I'd asked something unreasonable. "We were busy, Sarah. Emily's investors flew in. There was planning to do. You know how important that is." The dismissal was surgical, precise. "Important enough to throw her a party on my birthday?" I asked. She didn't even flinch. "Don't make this about you. Emily has worked harder than anyone I know. She deserves recognition." My laugh was sharp, surprising even myself. "Worked harder. She's never paid her own rent. She doesn't even pay her car insurance. You and Dad cover everything. While I bit my tongue, too tired to finish the sentence. Her eyes narrowed. "You've always been so ungrateful. We raised you to be independent. Emily needs our help. You don't." There it was again. The story she'd told herself so many times it became gospel. Emily was fragile, brilliant, destined. I was resilient, practical, disposable. I should have left then, but something inside me hardened. "You're going to regret underestimating me?" I said quietly. She chuckled, dismissive. "Sarah, please. Don't embarrass yourself. You'll never understand the weight Emily carries." The weight. I thought of the envelope waiting on my desk. The kind of weight my mother had no idea existed. 2. That night, I walked through the city streets, letting the cold air bite at my skin. Neon signs blinked above restaurants. Couples laughed over drinks, taxis honked impatiently. The world was loud, alive, but I felt like a ghost moving through it. I passed by the Mitchell Pharmaceuticals headquarters, a glass tower glowing like a monument. Inside, people were still working, lights burning late. My grandfather had built it brick by brick, decision by decision, with the kind of integrity no one in my family seemed to value anymore. Through the glass, I saw Emily's face smiling down from a framed poster, continuing a legacy. Emily Mitchell, CEO, CEO. She had claimed the throne before the crown was cold. I pressed my hand to the glass, a strange H tightening in my chest. That should have been mine. Not the title, not the wealth, but the recognition. The acknowledgement of years spent being invisible, the sacrifice no one ever saw. Behind me, a voice startled me from thought. Funny, isn't it? The people who shine the brightest usually have the darkest shadows. I turned. James Crawford stood under the streetlight, his long coat catching the wind. His eyes, sharp and searching, landed on me. "Walk with me," he said. We moved down the sidewalk together, the city humming around us. He didn't waste words. "Your grandfather trusted you. He saw what others refused to. He gave me instructions. Wait until Sarah is ready. Only then reveal everything." I stopped. Ready for what? Crawford's gaze met mine, unwavering, for the truth, and for the choice that comes with it. The choice. All my life, choices had been taken from me, sacrificed, silenced, replaced. Now, suddenly, a choice loomed so large it nearly crushed me. Crawford handed me a folder. Thick, heavy. My breath caught as I took it. Inside is a fraction of what we've gathered. Proof of fraud, forged signatures, bank transfers. Enough to bring everything down. But it's not my place to decide when. That's yours. I held the folder like it might detonate. What if I'm not ready? I whispered. Then you wait, Crawford said simply. But remember, patience isn't the same as silence. And silence can only protect them for so long. The words echoed through me as the city's noise swallowed us again. That night, alone in my apartment, I placed Crawford's folder next to my grandfather's sealed envelope. 2 weights, 2 paths. I didn't open either. Not yet. But for the first time in my life, I felt the power of holding both. The forgotten daughter, the practical one, the invisible child, suddenly had the means to become undeniable. And for the first time, the silence wasn't theirs to impose. It was mine to wield. The day started like any other. Though I should have known routine never survives long when secrets tremble beneath it. At dawn, the city was washed in slate light. I walked to work in my navy coat, collar turned up against the March wind. My office sat on the 22nd floor of a logistics firm that supplied half the hospitals on the West Coast. 12 years of. I'd built entire systems there, algorithms that moved millions of units with precision. But in the eyes of my family, I still counted boxes. That morning, though, even spreadsheets felt different. Numbers blurred. My mind wasn't on shipments or contracts. It was on the envelope in my desk drawer at home, and Crawford's folder stacked on top of it like a second heart. By noon, I couldn't sit still. I left work early, telling my assistant I had a personal matter. The truth was, I couldn't fight the pull any longer. Something in me knew the waiting was over. 2. I found myself standing outside Mitchell Pharmaceuticals again. The tower gleamed in the sun, glass walls reflecting clouds like a mirror. People passed through its revolving doors in waves. Suits, lab coats, interns with clipboards. My grandfather's empire, still alive, though the man who built it was gone. And somewhere inside, my sister sat in an office carved out of lies. I hadn't planned to go in, but my feet carried me forward through the revolving doors, past the marble lobby. The receptionist looked up, smiled politely, didn't question me. My last name was enough to let me pass. The elevator ride stretched forever. By the time the doors opened on the executive floor, my pulse was a drumbeat in my ears. Emily's office was at the end of the hall. Glass walls framed a view of the harbor. She sat behind a massive desk, scrolling on her phone, laughter spilling carelessly into the quiet. She didn't notice me until I spoke. Boozy. Her head snapped up. For a split second, her smile faltered. Then it returned, perfectly rehearsed. Well, the forgotten Mitchell. What brings you here? Need a tour of how the real world works. I stepped inside, closed the door behind me. The walls were so transparent it felt like we were on stage. But maybe that was fitting. You threw yourself a party on my birthday, I said. She didn't blink. Correction, Mom threw me a party. You weren't exactly doing anything worth celebrating. My jaw clenched. You don't even see it, do you? How much you've taken. How much I've had to give up so you could shine. Emily rolled her eyes, leaned back in her chair. Oh, here we go. Sarah's martyr speech. Newsflash, no one forced you to play second best. You chose that role. I laughed, sharp, bitter. I didn't choose. I was written out before the script began. Something flickered in her gaze, but she masked it quickly. If this is about the penthouse paperwork, relax. I'll get around to fixing it. You mean the lease you've been defaulting on for 3 years? The one I guaranteed. She waved a manicured hand. Details. You're so obsessed with details. That's why you'll always be small. Her words sliced clean, but this time, the wound didn't bleed. Instead, it crystallized. For the first time, I saw her clearly. Not as the golden child, not as the untouchable star, but as a fraud wearing sequins. And in that moment, I realized something. She believed her own performance. She truly thought I was powerless. That was her blind spot. And it was about to become my weapon. Later that night, I opened the envelope. My hands shook as I slit it cleanly across the seal. Inside were pages thick with legal weight. My grandfather's handwriting covered the margins, steady, deliberate. The first line made my breath stop. I leave the entirety of Mitchell Pharmaceuticals and all assets therein to my granddaughter, Sarah Mitchell. The words blurred through sudden tears. It was real. My grandfather had seen me, even when no one else had. But then, my eyes caught on another section. An integrity clause. Any heir found guilty of fraud, forgery, or financial misconduct would immediately forfeit all rights, transferring everything to the contingent beneficiary. Me. It wasn't just inheritance. It was a trap. A trap my sister and mother had already walked straight into. I sank into my chair, the weight of it pressing down. This wasn't just a weapon. It was dynamite. And I was holding the match. The next morning, my phone buzzed with an email. Mitchell Pharmaceuticals. Product launch invitation. Emily's name glittered at the top. A high-profile event. Investors, reporters, industry leaders. She was going to announce the company's next big breakthrough. It hit me then. This was the moment my grandfather had meant. The perfect stage. The perfect audience. The perfect fall. But as quickly as clarity came, so did fear. Could I really do this? Expose my own sister. Humiliate my mother. Shatter the illusion of family forever. The thought made me nauseous. But another image burned brighter. The Facebook album, the cake, the caption about. The only daughter worth celebrating. If I stayed silent, they'd keep erasing me. If I spoke, I'd finally exist. That night, I dreamed of fire. In the dream, Emily stood on stage, light pouring over her as applause thundered. But then, the stage cracked open. Flames licking at the edges, swallowing her whole. I stood in the shadows, holding the envelope, watching as she screamed my name, not in triumph, but in fear. When I woke, sweat drenched my skin. The city outside was still dark, but inside me, something irreversible had shifted. I wasn't waiting anymore. I wasn't asking anymore. I was coming for everything they said I didn't deserve. The twist wasn't the will itself. It was me. For the first time in 28 years, I felt something dangerous rising inside me. Not revenge, not rage, recognition, and I was ready to claim it. The week before the launch stretched like wire pulled too tight. Every day I woke with my grandfather's words echoing in my head. Patience isn't weakness. You'll know when. And now I knew. March 27th was circled on every calendar. Emily's legacy announcement. My legacy too, though no one realized it yet. Crawford called daily. Calm, steady, meticulous. We'll move when the eyes are on her, he said. Let her walk to the podium. Let her shine. Then we bring the lights down. He made it sound simple. But nothing about it felt simple to me. 2 nights before the launch, I drove to my parents' house again. I don't know why, maybe some final, masochistic hope. Maybe to see if my mother would notice me before the world forced her to. She was in the kitchen, polishing silver for the event. Diamonds glittered at her throat. Sarah. Her voice carried no warmth. What are you doing here? I leaned against the counter. I wanted to see if you remembered. Remembered what? My birthday. Last week. Her hands froze on the silver platter, then resumed, brisk. Oh, Sarah. We were busy. Emily's presentation is important. You can't expect us to stop everything for. For me. I finished for her. She sighed, exasperated. You've always been dramatic. Why can't you be proud of your sister instead of jealous? The words lodged like broken glass. You know what I gave up, don't you? I asked quietly. Hopkins. The scholarship. My life. So Emily could have hers. Her eyes flicked up. Sharp. Warning. Don't bring that up. You never wondered why I changed my mind. Why I walked away from medicine when I had a full ride. She set the platter down hard. It doesn't matter now. Emily is the doctor. Emily is the face of this family. You were always more practical. Practical. Again, the word. I almost laughed, but it came out hollow. You're going to regret standing beside her when this comes out. Her eyes narrowed, calculating. What are you planning? For a heartbeat, I considered telling her. Watching her face crumble with the truth. But I bit it back. She didn't deserve the warning. Instead, I said, You'll see. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat at my desk. The envelope and Crawford's folder spread before me like sacred texts. The will. The integrity clause. The forged signatures. The bank transfers. Pages upon pages of betrayal. I stared at them until the lines blurred. My heart ached, not with anger but with grief. This wasn't just about Emily. Or Mom. Or even me. It was about Grandpa. About the empire he built with sweat and sacrifice, reduced to an Instagram prop. And still, beneath the anger, there was a whisper of doubt. What if I was wrong? What if exposing them made me no better? What if I lost not only my family, but myself? The clock ticked past midnight. My apartment felt too small for the weight pressing down on me. I stepped out onto the balcony. The city sprawled below, glittering, indifferent. Somewhere across the harbor, Emily's penthouse gleamed like a jewel. I imagined her inside, rehearsing her speech, trying on gowns, basking in the reflection of stolen glory. And suddenly, the doubt burned away. I wasn't stealing anything. I was reclaiming what had always been mine. The morning of the launch. The air felt heavy, electric. I dressed carefully, deliberately. Not sequins, not designer flash. A navy suit. Tailored, but simple. The kind of outfit that didn't scream for attention, but commanded it anyway. Grandpa would have approved. As I fastened the last button, I caught my reflection in the mirror. For a moment, I didn't see the invisible daughter anymore. I saw someone dangerous. Someone ready. The Ritz, Carlton Ballroom shimmered with wealth that afternoon. Crystal chandeliers glowed overhead. Champagne flutes clinked, laughter echoed off marble. Reporters set up cameras. Investors clustered in circles, murmuring about IPOs and breakthroughs. Emily floated through it all like a queen at her coronation. Her dress sparkled with thousands of dollars in sequins. Mom trailed behind her, diamonds at her throat, pride in her eyes. When Emily saw me, her lips curved in disdain. Well, look who decided to show up. The audience participation prize. Wouldn't miss it. I said evenly. Mom's voice sharpened. Sarah, please don't embarrass us. This is Emily's day. My jaw tightened. Funny, I thought it was mine, too. After all, I carry the same last name. Emily smirked. Don't start, Sarah. Just sit in the back and try not to look too out of place. She swept away before I could respond. Crawford's text buzzed in my pocket. Patience. 11:47. We move. Hoot hoot. They seated me at a table near the servers. My name tag was scribbled in smaller print than anyone else's. Around me, waitstaff adjusted water pitchers, ignored me like I belonged in their uniform. Good, I thought. let them underestimate me. On stage, a massive screen glowed, continuing a legacy. Emily Mitchell, CEO. The crowd hushed as Emily stepped up to the podium. She looked radiant, confident, unstoppable. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, voice honey, sweet. Today we unveil the future of Mitchell Pharmaceuticals. My grandfather built this company with vision, with integrity, with brilliance, and I intend to honor that legacy. The words were knives. She didn't honor him, she exploited him. Applause swelled. Cameras flashed. Investors leaned forward. I checked my phone 11:42, 5 minutes. Emily's voice dripped through the speakers. This new anxiety medication will change lives across the globe. We are breaking barriers, shattering ceilings, redefining what it means to heal. My heart pounded. The folder under my arm felt heavier with every second. I scanned the crowd. Journalists poised pens over notepads. Venture capitalists whispered calculations. Employees clapped dutifully. Everyone believed. And then Emily's eyes found me in the back. Her smile turned cruel. Even my sister Sarah is here, she announced suddenly. Stand up, Sarah. Don't be shy. Heat rushed to my face as the spotlight swung, pinning me in place. 200 eyes turned. This is Sarah. Emily purred. She handles logistics. Boxes, really. But hey, every empire needs its worker bees, right? Lauder rippled, hesitant but real. My mother nodded approvingly beside her. I felt my hands tremble. For a split second, shame surged, threatening to drown me. But then, I remembered the envelope, the will, the integrity clause, the evidence. And most of all, I remembered Grandpa's eyes. Patience, strength, the perfect moment. I raised my chin, met Emily's gaze, and smiled. You're right, I said, my voice steady, carrying across the ballroom. Every empire does need its foundation, and I've been holding it up for years. Murmurs swept the crowd. Emily's smile faltered. I sat back down, heart hammering, but my hands had stopped shaking. Because I knew, 5 minutes from now, the entire room would know the truth. The clock struck 11:47. The ballroom doors swung open. James Crawford walked in. The ballroom stilled when James Crawford entered. He didn't rush. His footsteps echoed against marble, as though the room itself had been waiting for him. To assume. Shiites followed, carrying heavy leather cases that looked like they belonged in a courtroom, not a hotel. Emily's smile froze mid-sentence. Excuse me, she said, her voice pitched higher now. We're in the middle of something. You are, Crawford replied evenly. But so am I. He reached the center aisle, turned to the audience, and spoke with the authority of a man who had nothing to prove. My name is James Crawford. For 3 decades, I served as legal counsel to Robert Mitchell, the founder of this company. I carry with me his last will and testament, as well as documentation concerning the current leadership of Mitchell Pharmaceuticals. A ripple passed through the crowd. Phones lifted. Cameras whirred to life. Emily's laughter was brittle. This is absurd. I'm the CEO. Everyone here knows it. Crawford's eyes sharpened. Yes, everyone knows it. But knowing and proving are not the same. He gestured. One associate opened a case, lifting out a stack of documents bound in red ribbon. The other connected a laptop to the massive presentation screen behind Emily. The words, continuing a legacy, dissolved, replaced by a scanned page. Last will and testament of Robert James Mitchell. Gasps cut through the air. No, Emily whispered. That's not this document, Crawford said, his voice steady. Was executed 6 weeks before Robert Mitchell's death, witnessed and notarized according to Delaware law. It names a sole beneficiary. Not Emily Mitchell. He paused. The silence crackled like live wire. It named Sarah Mitchell. The world tilted. I felt every eye swing toward me. Felt the weight of 200 stares land on my skin. My breath hitched, but I forced myself to stand, slow, deliberate. Emily's face drained of color. She's lying. She's jealous. She's... Enough. Crawford cut in. The forged document you've been parading was notarized by a license that expired 2 years prior. We have handwriting analysis confirming the signature is fraudulent. We also have security footage. The screen shifted. Grainy black, and white video appeared Emily and my mother. Sneaking into Crawford's office after hours, rifling through files, practicing signatures. A collective gasp rolled through the room. No. My mother cried, stepping forward. This doesn't prove. Set down, Barbara, Crawford said coldly. Or should we discuss your role as accessory? For the first time in my life, I saw fear in her eyes. Real fear. Emily's voice cracked. This is a setup. This is Sarah's doing. She's always been jealous. She can't stand that I'm finally embezzling. Crawford's tone cut like glass. Shall we review the bank transfers? Over $2 million funneled into your personal LLC. Vacations. Shopping sprees. A penthouse you couldn't afford. The screen filled with statements, numbers glowing like damning neon. The investors shifted uneasily. Some stood. Phones buzzed furiously. My chest tightened. For years I had begged them to see me. Now they saw. Not the way I'd wanted, but with a clarity that seared. Emily's hands shook against the podium. She searched the crowd for sympathy, found none. Sarah. She pleaded suddenly, eyes locking onto mine. Tell them this isn't true. Tell them you don't want this. I swallowed hard. For a heartbeat. The child in me. The one who still wanted a mother's hand on her shoulder. A sister's love, almost caved. But then I remembered the birthday cake. The caption. The years of silence that nearly suffocated me. I stepped forward. 12 years of. My heels clicked against the marble, each sound louder than the last. When I reached the stage, I took the microphone. My name is Sarah Mitchell, I said, my voice trembling at first, then strengthening. For 28 years, I've been told I was the lesser daughter. Practical. Forgettable. Invisible. My family threw a party on my birthday for my sister because I wasn't worth celebrating. But my grandfather saw me. He saw what I built, what I sacrificed, who I am. The silence was absolute. Even the chandeliers seemed to hold their breath. I lifted the envelope, now open. The pages inside lined with my grandfather's handwriting. He left everything to me. Not because I demanded it. Not because I was loud. But because I was worthy. And now the truth is here. Emily lunged for the microphone.
Liar!
You're pathetic, Sarah. You'll always be pathetic. Security moved forward. Crawford's voice cut through the chaos. Ladies and gentlemen, as of this morning, the Delaware Court of Chancery has issued an emergency injunction. Emily Mitchell is hereby suspended from all operations of Mitchell Pharmaceuticals pending investigation. Emily froze. 2 agents stepped from the back of the room, badges flashing. The FBI. Emily Mitchell. One said, "One need to speak with you regarding wire fraud and financial misconduct." The room erupted. Reporters shouted questions. Investors stormed toward the exits, phones glued to their ears. Emily collapsed against the podium, mascara streaking. "Sarah, please," she whispered, broken now. "We're sisters." I looked at her, really looked. For the first time, I didn't see the star, the golden child. I saw a scared little girl who had believed her own lies. "Yes," I said quietly. "We are. And that's why this hurts so much." I handed the microphone back to Crawford. "Mr. Crawford," I said, my voice steady, clear. "Please proceed." Q2, the next minutes blurred into history. Crawford unveiled the integrity clause. The board members, reinstated by order, stood to confirm me as rightful CEO. Investors watched, stunned, as the foundation of Emily's empire crumbled in real time. Reporters shoved cameras toward me. "Sarah, did you know? Sarah, why wait until now?" I answered only once. Sometimes silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's strategy. The agents guided Emily away, my mother trailing behind, shouting her name, begging them to stop. But the world had already shifted. For once, it shifted around me. Cool? When the ballroom emptied, when the echo of footsteps faded, I stood alone at the podium. The company logo glowed behind me. My grandfather's legacy, no longer stolen. I thought of him then, his hands guiding mine to the envelope, his voice rasping, "You'll know when." "I know now." "Grandpa," I whispered. "I know." Oh, for the first time, the weight lifted. And in its place, power settled quietly into my bones. The ballroom emptied. But the silence it left behind was louder than the applause that had once filled it. Reporters were gone. Investors scattered. My mother vanished into the shadows after Emily. Only the faint hum of chandeliers remained, glowing above a stage that still smelled of champagne and fear. I stood at the podium where Emily had collapsed only an hour earlier. Behind me, the Mitchell Pharmaceuticals logo still glowed, but it no longer felt borrowed. It felt earned. For the first time, I didn't feel invisible, and the feeling terrified me. 2. The next days blurred into motion. Meetings stacked upon meetings. Lawyers drafting documents, auditors combing through accounts, board members swearing allegiance with cautious eyes. I wore the suit again. Navy pressed against skin that no longer trembled. I sat where my grandfather had once sat, at the head of a long mahogany table. Papers spread before me. Real numbers, real damage, real responsibility. The theft exceeds $5 million. The CFO said grimly. Shell companies, falsified invoices. Off. The book transfers. I nodded. Claw it all back. Every cent. It will take years. Then it takes years, I said. The board shifted, glancing at one another. Finally, the chairman spoke. Robert would be proud. You think long term, not quick profit. For a moment, I couldn't speak. My throat tightened. Pride, the word I had chased my entire life. Finally within reach. Not from my mother, not from Emily, but from the man whose legacy I now held. News spread fast. Emily's mugshot flashed across headlines, her penthouse emptied, the Mercedes repossessed. My mother, facing charges of accessory, disappeared into courtrooms and whispers. The Golden Daughter's empire turned to dust. But my story wasn't theirs anymore. Investors called me cautious, honest, strategic. Employees whispered I was different, steady, approachable, transparent. The janitor Emily, once humiliated, now ran facilities. Nurses whose work she'd stolen sat on a new advisory board. Change came not with fireworks, but with steady, deliberate steps. And for the first time, Mitchell Pharmaceuticals felt alive again. Yet in quiet moments, grief still came. Not for Emily's downfall. I couldn't grieve a house of cards collapsing, but for the childhood I never had, for the mother I never knew, for the birthdays stolen by silence. One evening, alone in the boardroom, I found myself staring at Grandpa's portrait. His eyes were sharp even in oil paint, watching me as though he'd known this moment would come.
You saw me.
I whispered, when no one else did. Thank you. The words cracked something inside me. For the first time since the reveal, I let the tears fall. Hot, heavy, cleansing. 2 months passed. The storm settled into a new season. On my 29th birthday, I invited people to my apartment. Not family, at least not by blood. Crawford came, gruff but smiling. David Chen brought wine. Board members, colleagues, even the receptionist from my office. Faces that had chosen me. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. There was cake, chocolate this time. No gold leaf, no theatrics. Just a circle of people singing off key. When the candles flickered, I closed my eyes. I didn't wish for recognition anymore. I already had it. To Emily wrote from prison once. The letter arrived in careful cursive, smudged where tears had fallen. Sarah, I know you hate me. I know I ruined everything. But I'm still your sister. Please send money for commissary. Just $50. I read it twice, then folded it neatly back into the envelope. I didn't send money. I didn't send a reply. Hate requires energy, and I had none left for her. My mother tried too. Calls through relatives. Messages delivered by friends. She's sorry. She's in therapy. She wants to reconcile. I wrote one family. Wide email reconciliation requires acknowledgement, remorse, and change. I've seen none. My boundaries are firm. Respect them or stay away. No one replied, and the silence, for once, felt like peace. 2. The company thrived. Stock climbed steadily. Employees no longer flinched at board meetings. Transparency replaced fear. I called it Grandpa's rules. Merit over nepotism. Truth over convenience. Respect that must be earned, never demanded. Every day, I enforced them. Not with anger, but with quiet certainty. And slowly, people began to believe. One night, months later, I left the office late. The building was quiet. Halls darkened. The city humming faintly beyond the glass. I paused in the lobby, beneath the plaque I'd commissioned. It bore my grandfather's words etched in steel. Success is built on truth, sustained by integrity, measured by the good we do. I traced the letters with my fingers, and for the first time, I felt not like a shadow of someone else's story, but the author of my own. I still think about that Facebook post sometimes, celebrating the only daughter worth honoring. They were right, in a way. There was only one. They just named the wrong daughter. Now, I no longer need their recognition. I carry my own. Sometimes silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's strategy. And sometimes, the quietest voice is the one that changes everything. 2. The city outside pulsed with light. The world moved forward. And so did I. I walked out into the night, the weight of years finally lifted, my steps steady, certain. For the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible. I was undeniable.